Welcome into the SBR betting roundtable. Today is Wednesday, September 13th. We got NFL, college football, full force. We'll hit on a little MLB and a little CFL with Ian Cameron and Donnie Rightside. Guys, welcome in. Good weekend of both NFL and college football. We got a good weekend coming up in both sports as well. Let's go around, get your thoughts, and say hello. Big man on campus. Start us off, buddy.
Hello, Drew. How are you? Looking forward to another week 3 college football, week 2 NFL. It was a fun weekend last week. I know we all had some fun with that. Always a favorite of this show. Looking forward to chatting with you guys this week. A lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Interested on your opinions, BMOC. And next up, his partner in crime on a lot of shows around SBR, Donnie Rightside. Find him on Twitter at RightsideVP. Donnie, how you doing today?
Hey, doing good, man. Happy to be back on the show once again. I mean, we're going to continue this thing all throughout football season. It was really nice. We had that taste of college football the past few weeks. Now that you have NFL back in, you have that entire weekend that you're just sitting on the couch. I mean, most people sitting on the couch on Saturday watching college football all day long, and you do it again on Sunday. It's a lot of fun. And I do want to shout out SBR. I mean, making it now an entire weekly event for us throughout sports. You have Saturday all day long. Jeff and Pete starting off the day, going through. You have Betcast throughout the day. Sunday, Gabe and I just, cruising through the morning, coming back on at some halftime. Jeff and I doing a night show, another Betcast with Gabe and Jeff at night. It's a lot of fun here at SBR. We're enjoying it. And again, it's just started, months ahead to have a good time. So once again, I'm happy, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, Donnie, and how's that show? I missed it on this Sunday with Gabe. Is it easy working with him? Is it hard? I know he's
been around the block. It's high energy. He knows a lot of stuff, comes from the same angles that I do. I mean, put it this way. It was the first, we didn't have any test shows. We didn't do this for 3 weeks. Just popped on air at 12 o'clock. We had a great time right up to 1 o'clock. Even more fun at the half. I mean, we've all been on the show at night, taking turns going back and forth. But Gabe's fun to work with, man. No question about it. And I know everybody on this panel, Ian, Jeff, you as well, Drew, can all vouch for it. It's a lot of fun. Great addition to the SBR.
When he's losing, it's even funner because he's crazy.
That's the best part. Yep. Thursday night, we are going to force him to take the Bengals, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Well, no, I actually want to ask him, are we doing a Betcast Thursday? Because he hates the Bengals. But I don't know. We might not want to be on with him because he might kill Andy Dalton live on the air.
Solo mission.
Yeah.
Well, let's get Ian Cameron in here. I know Ian knows Gabe as well. I believe you're both Canadians, but Ian, let's get your thoughts. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I've known him for 10 years. I mean, I can't believe it's been that long, but yeah. And he's a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
We didn't know that, actually. We didn't know you knew him for 10 years. How did we not know that yet?
I know, unbelievable. But yeah, looking forward to this show. I mean, in particular, it's going to be good. Football. I mean, it's really a football betting roundtable, guys. I mean, it's been sports betting roundtable is what we've called it for all summer. Let's be honest. Throw sports out the window. It's football roundtable now for the next several months. Looking forward to it.
Amen. Good.
Yes, sir. Let's get right into it, guys. NFL, what caught your eye? Let's start off with some teams to look to bet, some teams to possibly look to fade in the next couple weeks. Donnie, I know you know the NFL real well. You want to start us off?
I mean, I'll just keep it simple here. We all saw the Sunday Night Football game, the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Impressive, not impressive from both sides of the ball until the Giants get it squared away. And you can't tell me that just adding Odell Beckham back into the offense, it's going to be like a well-oiled machine putting up 30 points. It might be a struggle throughout the season. We've talked about it time and time again. Those sounds like a broken record. You cannot have a statue at quarterback who throws interceptions under siege just about every time he drops back. That's going to be a problem. The one thing, again, I saw, which I really liked out of that football game, the Dallas Cowboys, mobile quarterback, not making mistakes, big-time wide receiver, great running back, fantastic offensive line. That's a recipe for success in the National Football League and also a recipe for success taking it on the road. If we just look at this weekend coming up, you got Dallas and Denver. Dallas going to Denver. Tough environment to play. How do you hold up there? Hold off the pass rush. Don't make mistakes. Keep your team in the ball game. Dallas should have a good week again here. But if you're looking just bet to fade and a team to back, I would go Dallas and the Giants. Overreaction week 1 to 2, yes. But that's where I'm going to sit at this week.
Okay, and Big Man, what are you seeing for overreaction or teams to look at?
To teams to bet on. I don't want to call Donnie out, but the LA Rams. I know they played the Colts week 1, but hey, you know what? They look pretty good, and they're going to get Aaron Donald back here, I believe, this week. So that's obviously going to be a key to their defensive line. Look, Jared Goff looked great And look, I got to say, look, the Redskins aren't going to put up a ton of pressure to him either. I mean, they're not a very good pass defense either. I know they have Josh Norman, but overall, look, are they going to drop 46 points? No, but I think for right now, I'm going to ride the hot hand in Jared Goff and this offense. They're moving the football and moved it last week. Defense is only going to improve bringing back Aaron Donald. So, yeah, that's kind of an interesting one. I don't know how long I'll ride that, but maybe for the next week or two. And look, I don't think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this. I think for the foreseeable future, the New England Patriots, I mean, I don't want to be that guy that says it, but I mean, look, they're off a loss. They got a great game in front of them here against the New Orleans Saints, who I'd like to talk about in a little bit. Donnie, you and I talked about New Orleans. I just don't think they're a very good football team, to be honest. I think overall the New England Patriots got really embarrassed week one. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that was a pretty embarrassing performance. They never lose at home. But you look going forward, I mean, you got the New Orleans this week. Then you face a Texans team that's had problems. And, for the foreseeable future, I'm looking at those two. Kind of chalky in one. But the Rams, I'm going to ride until the wheels fall off, I have a feeling.
Hey, and big man, to come at you with the Rams, as far as Jared Goff goes, I've noticed that, especially in this last game, they got him some confidence. He hit his first pass right off the bat. He started to kind of put the ball where it needed to be for really the first time I could see at this level in the NFL for Jared Goff. Do you think it has anything to do with giving him time as far as the offensive line? Obviously, it has something to do with it, but maybe looking to fade him against defensive lines that are going to be able to overpower their offensive line, and he would really struggle in that situation?
Well, sure, and I think any quarterback would, against really good defensive lines. Let's say the Eagles, for instance. I mean, I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle. But you know what, Drew? For me, I like to ride streaks. I like to kind of maybe start one and just kind of see how it goes. I thought that the LA Rams would be in a little bit better situation this year. They had a lot going on last year with their move and with all the things that were going on with their coach. And, they got a new coach, a young coach, an upbeat coach. They have a good defensive coordinator in Wade Phillips, a guy that has been around the block and knows how to coach a defense. Overall, with Goff, I'm going to ride it for right now. Maybe he is a star. Who the hell knows? Maybe this is the reason he was drafted number one. I still would have took Carson Wentz, but at the end of the day, I'm going to ride it, see how it goes. They did bring in Whitworth from Cincinnati, who I think many kind of liked there. I mean, they made some moves to bring in some linemen. So overall, we'll ride it. Washington does have a decent defensive line. We'll see how it goes. But I think that's a good point you make. But I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle, against a good defensive line.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. A lot will, and it's just a matter of how much. But Ian Cameron, let's get you in here. What are you looking teams to bet on, teams to fade? What caught your eye, man?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of week one, I think just in general, a general thought process is the unders that came in week one. 10-4-1 to the under in NFL week one action. The only game that pushed was really the New Orleans-Minnesota game. I consider that a push because it was 48 for most of the week. It landed right on that number. So it's a push in my mind. But, to me, I don't think this under trend here in week one could be just a 1 week thing. You look at it across the board, I am not sure I've seen offensive line play across the board in the NFL as horrendous, as horrific, as abysmal as I saw last week. You saw guys not being able to pass protect and run block anywhere close to the level that you're supposed to in the National Football League. I think quarterback play, especially with the younger group that has been drafted the last few years, is getting worse, not better in a lot of situations. You look at all the quarterbacks that have flamed out in recent years, E.J. Manuel, Robert Griffin III. I hate to throw my friend Johnny Manziel from Costa Rica under the bus, but I got to do it. Didn't work out for him. There's just a bunch of quarterbacks that haven't been drafted, that have been drafted recently in the NFL, and they just haven't panned out. The younger crop is not getting the job done for the most part. So you combine lackluster quarterback play with porous offensive line play, and we saw it across the board in week one. This was ugly offense, really, from a lot of teams. You look at what Houston did. You look at what Cincinnati did. You look at that inept, pathetic performance from the New York Giants, the G-men on Sunday night. That was about as bad as it can get in terms of offensive execution. Don't just all of a sudden assume that 10-4-1 under run in week one was just a 1 week thing. I think it could continue. I think low-scoring games could continue and could be more predominant, especially when you consider the odds makers didn't just get beaten. They got crushed. They got fucking killed by overs last year. You're going to have to pay a tax for overs in the NFL in the weeks and months to come. And if this low-scoring pedestrian offensive trend from week one continues moving forward, you might still see undervalued.
Donnie, for what Ian is saying, would you say that it's fully the offense has been bad, or would you say, give some credit to these defenses with the scheme going at them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the offense or the defense. What I do know is a lot of these football players don't play a lot of football until they hit week one. Can you imagine any walk of life that you have where you're going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to practice. We're not going to do, 2-a-days anymore. It's going to be hot, but we'll keep it short. We'll keep it in the morning. We'll keep most of the teams now staying at their practice facilities, very comfy environment. Game 1, you're going to go out for a series in the preseason. Game 2, you're going to go out for 2 to 3 series. Game 3, in the Eagles' case, you're going to play 1 quarter of football. I believe the stat was 18 total plays that the first-team offense was intact before they lined up against the Washington Redskins. That's ridiculous. And now you're going to say, okay, we've only managed ourselves to be about a quarter of football. Now let's go play a full 4 quarters when all guns are blazing out there. It's going to take a while for the offense to catch up. Ian, I think you brought up a good point with the offensive lines. It's the same way. I mean, you're a 320-pound guy. I know you're professional. I know you're working out, you're lifting, but you can't simulate playing 4 full quarters of catching 75 plays and maybe 50 of those. You're going to be in pass protection. You're always going to be behind the edge because the defense comes in at waves. You might have a defensive line come in, and then all of a sudden 2 plays later, a completely new and fresh defensive line comes in. You're not changing your offensive linemen in and out of the game. They're going to stay out there the entire game. I look for that to improve as the weeks go on because you can't help but see in the first week of the NFL season, these teams technically aren't ready to play yet.
No, great point, Donnie. And guys, do you want to bring up anything else that caught your eye from a betting angle that for the next couple weeks to take forward before we break down a couple games this week?
I just want to say one thing, and I'm going to keep preaching this. Actually, 2 things. The Giants' offense sucks. I've said it all summer, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's not any good. They don't have any offensive line. They can't run the ball. And without Odell Beckham, they are dreadful on offense. And I don't know how much he's even going to fix it. Also, New Orleans Saints, I don't think they're very good. I think their defense is just what we know it is, bad. It hasn't improved, and I don't think it's going to. They gave up a ton of yards to the Sam Bradford and the Vikings. Look, I like Bradford. He's always a keen professional, does his hardest, and they work hard, but I don't think he should be throwing for 400-plus yards against a football team. And offensively, this isn't the same team. Donnie, you and I talked about it. Marcus Colston's gone. Joe Horn's gone. I mean, all these big receivers they've had in the past are gone. They don't have anyone anymore. Brandon Cooks is gone. Willie Snead's out.
A lot of weapons.
What do you have there really in that passing game other than Michael Thomas, who I like Gabe's at a point, is going to command a double team. I mean, you just don't have many people there that can beat you. And the run game, you're dealing with an old Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram, who is just an average football player in the NFL. Drew Brees just doesn't have many weapons anymore. I don't think they're going to be that team that's going to drop 35 points a game anymore. I think they're going to get absolutely run out of the gym on Sunday against New England. I think this is just a bad team. And last year, they were really good in the red zone. We saw week 1. They struggled, like many teams, to score points. Might have a little bit more success against the Patriots, but overall, I just don't think they're very good offensive side.
Yeah, and just a pony bet. I mean, Jeff, I, and most of the guys on the roundtable, we were down on the New Orleans Saints, but I do think it's a little bit of an overreaction. I mean, you had to go up to Minnesota, arguably a top 3 defense in the NFL. That's a tough environment. Down a couple guys on the offensive line. They're actually going to catch a breather this week playing against the New England Patriots. Looks like Hightower's not going to go. The Patriots don't have much of a pass rush, so Drew Brees is going to be able to pick his spots there. I think they'll have a good week offensively. Do I think they can win the football game? That's another story. I want to take a look at 2 other teams. If we're looking finally able to catch up on some film work and take a look at some things from an outside view, the Cleveland Browns actually played a competent football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a key bounce early when the game was 7-7 that Antonio Brown caught a pass over the middle, ended up stretching it for like 40 or 45 yards, which could have been an interception or incomplete pass and maybe change that game. And also, let's not forget the opening drive of that game, a block punt for a touchdown. So Pittsburgh, not that impressive, but I actually think Cleveland came out and played a competent football game with a rookie quarterback against a really, really good football team. The second team I want to point out is the Arizona Cardinals. The first quarter of the Detroit game, I don't know how Arizona wasn't up literally 28-0 off the bat. They ended up losing that football game. They lost what I think is their only offensive weapon. The guy they were going to lean on all season long, 25 to 30 touches. He's going to be out until Christmas. Carson Palmer back there is just a shell of his former self. I know they have a very good defense and a competent defense, but that team's in trouble.
Yeah, Donnie, and you bring up Cleveland. I mean, you make a good point. They made a game out of it for sure. So catching as high as what, 9.5 right now at 5 dimes against Baltimore. I know it's on the road, but are you looking to go that way on the Browns?
I mean, you would have to. You've seen division games typically. I mean, again, Cleveland's been really bad for a really long time. So automatically when you see Cleveland on the road at Baltimore, well, I don't know if they can win it. Yes, a rookie's going to make his first career start on the road, but he got baptized under fire against a really good Pittsburgh team and had them in the football game just about the entire way, despite being down right off the bat, which is very hard for a rookie to come back from. I do see a division game, and I would be, if it's right now, I would be leaning towards the point it was Cleveland here because I haven't seen that much out of Baltimore. Baltimore had the game given to them in Cincinnati. We'll see if they can go out and take it versus Cleveland. But right now, if you ask me, I will be leaning towards the points with Cleveland here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anytime you're getting over a touchdown in the NFL, it definitely catches my eye. Guys, feel free to chime in with any other ideas you want to get into as we're breaking down a couple games in the NFL. But let's start off with the Thursday nighter, 101-102, Houston, Cincinnati. Looks like a pretty low total here, guys. Under 40, sitting at pretty much 38 across the board. Cincinnati laying 6.5. I don't see any 7s. Interesting to see if a full touchdown will pop up. But Ian Cameron, you want to start us off on this Thursday nighter? Which way you're looking to go?
I wouldn't be betting it over, even at 38, not even maybe. We're talking about a situation here where you've got two teams that are like mirror images of each other right now. They've got quarterback issues. Their offensive line can't protect worth a damn right now, at least based on what we saw in week 1. I mean, that Houston offensive line was completely chewed up and spit out by Jacksonville throughout the game. 10 sacks they had? Unbelievable job by Jacksonville, but a horrendous job by that Texans offensive line. Same problems with the Bengals offensive line. How many times did I say during our NFL previews about that Cincy offensive line? I don't like it. I don't like the situation. They were a mediocre at best offensive line last year that's now down. Whitworth and Zeitler, 2 key cogs from that line, are gone from last year's squad. And it hasn't been the same group whatsoever. And Andy Dalton, by the way, last year when under pressure, 9.6. Is that good? No, it ain't. I don't trust him under pressure with a mediocre offensive line. I just don't. And it's a situation here where if you're not going to get good play in the trenches and you're not one of these quarterbacks that is absolutely phenomenal at mobility and, just making things happen and just that ingenuity of being able to engineer something when there's nothing there. I don't see Andy Dalton as a guy that can do that. Now, the question is, Houston's already made that announcement, guys. Deshaun Watson likely going to be the starter for the Texans in this game. And yeah, he's got more mobility than Tom Savage. I understand that. But we're still talking about a guy that's had limited practice, if any, this week, leading up to this game, now going on the road behind a very, very sketchy offensive line. I can't envision Deshaun Watson, even though I think he's got potential to be maybe a solid NFL quarterback down the road. I don't envision him going up and down the field here against Cincinnati's defense, which, is at least still pretty good. They are the Bengals on that side of the football. That wasn't the issue for them last week. They pretty much put the clamps down on Flacco and the Ravens. They were not really a ton of big plays being made by that Baltimore offense. It was Cincinnati's offense that was holding them down and holding them back in that football game. So I understand this total is very low for NFL. I mean, 38, that's not a lot of value. That's not a lot of wiggle room, but the under's still the only way I could play it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at baseball and it gets to 6.5, 6 as the total, that there's a reason for that. And I know Donnie is a big value better. Donnie, do you have any disagreement with what Ian said?
No, I mean, Thursday Night Football, but you had a Thursday Night Football last week, and there was a high-scoring game, but that's not really a true Thursday Night Football game. Both teams came in well-rested, obviously being game 1. This turns out to be the first true test because you have two teams that are reeling, but again, you don't have a lot of adjustment time. And in the NFL, it's a what have you done for me lately league. 0-2, you've seen the statistics out there. If you go 0-2, you're a dead man walking football team. Everybody's job's on the line. GM's getting pressure from the owner. The fans are in an uproar. You can't go 0-2. The problem with this game is somebody's going to end up 0-2 regardless of who wins this football game. The one thing I don't like is Watson's going to go on the road. I like his hustle. He gave a spark to the Houston team. But again, you're talking about, I'm going to bring up the same concepts on Thursday Night Football. If you played on Sunday, you rest up on Monday. Tuesday's in NFLPA, mandatory day off, which you're allowed to come in on a Thursday, but you're not going to practice. Wednesday, they're in T-shirts and shorts running around, and then they're going to get on a plane, and they're going to travel and play on a Thursday night, where you have the distinct advantage of Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been there, done that. They have a veteran quarterback. Yeah, he sucked last week, but hopefully it doesn't continue both weeks. Overall, I like Cincinnati in the spot. I don't know about the over-under. I would lean towards the under as well, just because of what I saw from the first game. And you know, both of these teams, they're not coming out guns blazing here. They're going to take a look-see approach. Don't make a mistake. Maybe the other team makes a mistake. So I agree with Ian. The under is probably the play here, just because of the way football tends to play on a Thursday night with short preparation time, a lot of banged-up bodies and injuries. But I would lean towards Cincinnati winning this football game just by the overall optics of it being home. You have the veteran quarterback back there. Rookie's going to make his first start on the road, his first career start. I just think it adds up to Cincinnati. And I agree with that line movement, because I know it opened up, 5.5, currently sitting at 6.5 across the board. I agree there.
Yeah, great point, Donnie, with the last week's Thursday night being high scoring, it not really being a true Thursday night with all the extra preparation time. I thought that was a great point. BMOC, any differing opinion? Are you also leaning towards the Bengals?
One thing I wanted,
Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, are you also looking towards the 6.5 with the Bengals?
I was going to say, let Ian have his opinion. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, guys, about this situation. This is reprehensible as far as I'm concerned, decision-making by Bill O'Brien. Why on earth are you going to Deshaun Watson now instead of before week 1? I mean, I know Savage was awful, but why are you making Watson have his first start in this spot on the road, short week, no practice time, or hardly any, if any, in this kind of situation? That's just setting this poor kid up, Deshaun Watson, maybe in a tough spot to make his first start on the road. You got to be better than that in terms of decision-making and managing this roster if you're Bill O'Brien. This is absolutely piss poor by him. I hope Watson plays well. Wish him all the best, but you're setting him up in a very, very tough, difficult, and tenable situation as far as I'm concerned. Bad job by Bill O'Brien, but I'm not shocked by him when what he does.
Yeah, I will disagree with both these guys. I think the game goes over. I think it's like a 27-14 type of game. I don't think that Houston will do a ton offensively, but I think with the injection of Deshaun Watson, a guy who I think is a pretty good competitor, I think he's going to take Ian's point and kind of say, well, you know what? I'm going to go out here and ball out. This is what I do. I have some good receivers. I have an okay run game. I'm going to go and ball out because we didn't play well in week 1 and we don't want to go 0-2 like Donnie said. I don't know if they'll be great in succeeding. I think they'll put up 10 to 17 points, something like that. I think Cincinnati's due here. I mean, they played as bad as they could in week 1. They had plenty of offensive weapons as well. And I do think there's going to be some short field position for some of these teams. We both mentioned, all of us, that their offensive lines, both these offensive lines are very suspect. I mean, would anyone be surprised if J.J. Watt or someone like that comes in and gets their hand on a football and takes one back? I think we see a quick 1 or 2 scores here. Maybe really kind of set that total up. I mean, you're working with a 38-point total. I mean, that's close to being a preseason number. I mean, preseason number is like 36. I just think there's a little bit of an overreaction. These are two teams that do have some weapons. Both are really need to score points and win. I think this is like a 27-17, 27-14 kind of game. I think it'll just get up and over the total personally, but we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully DeAndre Hopkins gets rid of the Butterfingers. That was terrible last week. He dropped so many passes that he usually catches. I don't know if his brain was in that football game, but he was awful. He's got to be better than that.
Agreed. Guys, let's get into another night game, the Sunday night game, 287, 288. We got the Packers traveling to Atlanta. Playoff matchup replay from last year. We got a total 53.5, and it looks like Atlanta – -2.5, -3. This is one to shop around. Use SBR odds right now. Looks like 5 dimes at 2.5. We got Bookmaker at 3. Bet Online and Bovada also at 3. So make sure, obviously we know that's a really important half point. So make sure to shop around. Use SBR odds for that. And guys, Donnie, you want to start us off with this Green Bay Atlanta matchup?
Really looking forward to it. Enjoyed the game last year. I mean, Atlanta was high rolling at that point. Green Bay was really banged up heading into that football game. It was basically Aaron Rodgers out there just trying to make some, things happen with backup tight ends, backup wide receivers. If we get back into this game as a whole, I still actually like the Atlanta Falcons, similar to the game last year in the playoffs that they played. It's going to be an interesting environment. The new stadium there, you're going to open it up on a Sunday night football game. The crowd's going to be loud, but, caution that as well. We saw some emotional games with Houston where they got taken to task. I also saw an emotional game in Philadelphia in 2003 when they opened up Lincoln Financial Field on Monday Night Football in a rematch for the Buccaneers and got their ass handed to them. So it doesn't always matter if everybody's excited. It's a new stadium. That wears off after the first, kickoff, the first hit, whatever it would be. But I like Atlanta here as a home team, fast track. I do want to take a little bit out of the Green Bay game. They played well last week. That's a tough defense, Seattle, to go up against week one, especially when you're a little bit banged up on the offensive line. I thought Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, but it did seem to favor that calf a little bit, getting stepped on, maybe a little ankle injury. This is going to be a fast turf. I think that really plays to Atlanta's advantage. If I'm looking at this game on a whole right now without capping it thoroughly, I'm going to lean on the home team here, Atlanta, especially if that line's going to be -2.5. I think it's cheap. I think Atlanta's going to be excited for this football game. Escaped week one, can take a breather. And again, if you're Green Bay, you're going into Atlanta. I mean, I don't want to say you're going in with house money, but you won first week against a really tough Seattle football team. No shame in going on the road and losing in that environment and going back home and, trying to take care of business. So I would lean Atlanta in this situation.
Yeah, big man. It's Atlanta, first home game of the year in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Also, any opinion on the total? I think that looks a little low. Do you?
Well, I do want to dispel of a rumor and a myth, and we have to stop with this crap in this business. Stop bringing up emotional advantage in the NFL. It doesn't mean anything. Stop bringing it up. Nobody cares about emotion or momentum. Stop bringing that up. These are professionals to get paid to go out and play football. They don't stop. Fans care about that stuff. The teams don't. Okay. There are very few opportunities where they care about it. In college, definitely, because you have kids you're dealing with, kids that go to a dorm room and that's where they sleep. They don't have millions of dollars. They don't have a driver. They don't have a bling bling and an Escalade. They don't have that. Stop with them. Donnie, you agree. Stop with the momentum and emotion crap. It doesn't. Yeah,
I mean, we've all played football, and I always like to use the adjective being a wide receiver. You get real excited for the game. I run a 15-yard out, and it feels like I'm already spent for the game, even though I have about 70 more plays to go. Emotion doesn't carry that far. And again, you're right in the NFL, Jeff. Check clears on Tuesday morning. That's all they care about most of the time.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there are a few certain instances where it might, maybe for one certain player, but at the end of the day, we as people care initially, and then we move on, okay? It doesn't – in certain instances, I actually did mention it. I think there's certain teams that need to win. That's different than saying, I think this team emotionally is going to win because they have this. Sometimes I do think teams have to win, and I think that's important. Sometimes the coach has to light a fire under their ass. But do I think it matters that they're opening a new stadium here? Like, okay, it's cool. It's going to be cool for the fans and stuff. But overall, I like Atlanta. I'll agree with Donnie. I like their defense. I think their front seven's really solid. I think that overall, Matt Ryan is a competitor. I think he's going to want to come out here and, again, take his team to 2-0. I do agree with Donnie that I don't think it's a terrible loss here if you go on the road and lose to Green Bay. I just think overall I wasn't that impressed last week with Green Bay. I know they were facing Seattle and everything, but overall, I don't have a ton on this game. I didn't look that much into it just yet. We will a little bit later, but overall, I agree with Donnie. I think this is kind of a low number. I'm not sure that I'm ready to anoint. I mean, was Green Bay's defense that good, Donnie, or was Seattle's offense just not that good?
No, Seattle's offensive line is a train wreck. But again, you're looking at opening day. Green Bay is a healthy defense right now. They're going to be able to get after the quarterback. You're playing at home. It's very hard just to beat Green Bay and Green Bay. So I don't even fault Seattle. I really liked Green Bay in that situation all season. Came through, with an easy cover in that one. But this is a little bit different type of an environment. They're going to be, track meet style. Atlanta's offense healthy for this one. I think they have enough firepower to get through Green Bay, even though it's really hard to beat Aaron Rodgers wherever he's at. But you're not asking him to cover 7, Jeff. You're not asking him to cover 10. Just give me the field goal winner at home on Sunday Night Football. I think they get it done here.
Yeah, in terms of this game, I'm going to look under the total, actually. I think there's actually value under the total. I actually took a little Bears-Falcons under last week. Look, Atlanta's offense is very, very good still. I'm not convinced that they are great to the extent that they were last year, and it's all because of the Kyle Shanahan factor. I think Steve Sarkisian's just not going to be able to scheme up, game plan, and call plays to the high level that we saw from Shanahan, who put forth one of the better coordinating seasons I've seen from the offensive side of the football. Still obviously have a ton of talent with Ryan, with great receivers, with great running backs. No question about that. Good offensive line. But this is now, to me, a very good, not a great offense. And I think this Atlanta defense has improved. You look at Vic Beasley, they're going to be in company, going to be able to get a pass rush, I think, against Green Bay. Let's not forget the Packers offensive line, another offensive line that was very suspect last week. They had Aaron Rodgers basically scrambling on more than one occasion in that game against Seattle last week. So I think Atlanta's defense is going to make it tough on Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers to move the football. and finish drives with touchdowns, particularly on the road. And I think because Atlanta's offense was just so dynamic, so powerful, so explosive last year, you've got residual value in the totals now early on with the Falcons here to look under, when I'm convinced that offense is just not quite what they were last year while their defense has improved. So actually, I'm going to look under the total in this game.
All right, Ian, respect it. Some differing opinion for sure. And guys, just real quick, BMOC and Donnie mostly, I know you guys are into the Eagles. What about KC, the Chiefs, looking good on Thursday night, now coming back? I kind of think this is a short number, -5 at home versus Philly. Am I wrong here? Do you guys think the Eagles are the way to look here and they keep it close?
Go ahead, Donnie.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'll go first on this one. Yeah, taking a look at it on its whole, I actually would have liked the game much better if the Eagles would have lost to Washington, being as you can't get down 0-2. It's already a tough environment to go play in Kansas City, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. Andy Reid is a good coach. He doesn't win the big game, but he's a very good regular season coach. And also, let's keep in mind, they had that mini bye, same way New England does playing versus New Orleans. That's a big advantage, especially for Andy Reid, who's very good at preparation. I don't know what to make of Kansas City just yet. Losing Eric Berry was big. The Eagles have a lot of firepower, a lot of weapons. How do you combat a good offense or a steady offense? Get some pressure on it. The front seven for the Eagles is going to get after that team with Alex Smith. I think he goes back to more of his dinking and dunking. It's interesting. I do agree with the line movement going from about 4.5 to 5 as a home favorite. I think that would have went into reverse if the Eagles had lost somehow in Washington. But whether or not Kansas City won that opening game really doesn't change my thing. You have to win. You have to win at home in the Football League. National Football League. Kansas City is a very good home team, but I do agree. I actually think Kansas City is going to get the job done. I don't think they run away from the Eagles, no. So if you're asking me to take this game down, say you're going to get 5 points, I would lean towards the Eagles getting 5 points here, but I do think Kansas City is going to win this football game.
Yeah, I think week to week with the Eagles, there's two things you have to look out for. It's how long will this patchwork secondary work? Because look, I mean, your starting corners are Patrick Robinson and Jalen Mills. Okay, they've done good enough, but losing Ronald Darby was big. That's concerning. Luckily, he's not out for a long, extended year or anything. But for 5 or 6 weeks, they're going to have some trouble. Not a great receiving core here. I guess they're better than we thought. And also overall, is Doug Peterson going to find ways to lose the football game? He does dumb things. He does things that most coaches don't do. Kind of a problem that we had with Andy Reid as well. His time management was terrible. You're really looking at two coaches that make a lot of mistakes during the football game. So look out for that during it. But Doug Peterson has to clean up some of the play calls that he's making that really could be destructive if the ball bounces a different way. And, we saw it in week 1. I mean, you throw an out route to Nelson Aguilar, no one blocks him and he fumbles or something like that. You can't continue to shot momentum out here. I mean, with this team, when you go down and score a touchdown, you get the ball back after 3 and out. And those are the kind of plays you're doing at the 30-yard line, going into even at worst get a field goal. It's just stupid things you can't do, going for 2 when you shouldn't, or not kicking a field goal when you should. Doug Peterson needs to clean that up. But overall, I like their defensive line. I think they're going to be destructive all year. I'm just a little concerned about their secondary. But, hey, going on the road here, pupil versus teacher, I want to say the Eagles can win because I think the Chiefs, I don't know how good they really are. I just think New England just kind of had a bad game. We'll see, though. Kareem Hunt's going to be a tough stop all year, but if any defensive line can do it, I think it's the Eagles. Shut him down.
BMOC, what about Kareem Hunt running up and down the field, the old Toledo Rocket there? Did that bring a smile to your face?
How about that?
That's great stuff.
I think a lot of us that are real big college football guys, we saw that and we're happy. It's always nice to see a MAC player, a Sun Belt player. I saw Tariq Cohen, the kid out of North Carolina A&T. It's always nice to see those kids get their due because we all know how hard they work. We all know that it's so difficult to get to the NFL. They're not the best players in the world, but they work hard and they get there. And it's cool. It's cool to see them get to that point and just ball the fuck out. I mean, it's great. I love it. I know all of us are big fans of the small schools.
Yeah, I find myself rooting for him too, big man. Absolutely, man. Hey, and guys, just want to remind you, if you haven't signed up for Beat the Bag contest, $25,000 in prizes going out. It's free to enter. Check that out on SBR Picks. Also, if you like the content here on the Roundtable, please give us a thumbs up, a like on the button. We're going to hit on MLB, a little CFL, and then get into college football action. Also, best bets to come. So, Donnie, let's hit it off on the diamond. I'll tell you one thing I noticed last night. The Cleveland Indians, -436 favorites. That's the highest favorite since 2004 when Boston was favored at home over the then Devil Rays. I believe it was Pedro Martinez on extended rest on the hill. Interesting note, the Devil Rays actually won that game as huge dogs. Last night, Cleveland covering that huge number there. But should we be looking to back these huge favorites as we come down the stretch in MLB? And any other thoughts on the Diamond?
Yeah, no, I basically just throw those out the window. If you're looking to bet Major League Baseball in September, you have to find some moderate value in there. Sometimes you want to take a lottery ticket feel. Will they lose? I mean, Kluber was sensational last night. 9 innings, complete game shutout, even covered the run line, even though it got a little bit hairy in the 9th inning with the man on second base. But if you're looking at some of these games, I almost want to say you probably should be looking at more of overs in bad situations. What I mean by that, like the Philadelphia Phillies last night with the Miami Marlins. Both teams have very shaky bullpens, even though the Phillies bullpen did an admirable job in winning that game. What was it? End up maybe 15 innings, but they still got, maybe what was the final, 9-8 or 8-7 in that situation. Looking at these bad teams, because again, they're just trying out a lot of new kids. They're still going to run a good starting 1 through 8 out of there. And look at the Mets. Me and Jeff talked about it for the last 2 weeks while we're still dipping and dabbing, so to speak, in Major League Baseball. That lineup is just god awful. But against average pitching, they can put up 5 to 6 to 7 runs. Maybe betting totals here, keeping that juice low, because if you're just looking to stack up team over team over team and see who's going to be good, a lot of these lines are inflated 40, 50, 60, 70 cents per game if the team, quote unquote, needs to win versus a team that's out of it. Just betting for value. Good luck if you can win at this point in September right up to the playoffs.
And Drew, I think you mentioned, should people lay the big lines? I think you should, maybe look into it and say to yourself, are these teams winning by margins? You look at it in this 20-game winning streak for Cleveland, 17 have come by 2 or more runs, 85%. So if you're laying the big price, I don't really know why you're doing it. You're getting a team that is winning by margins in every game. Why lay the big price? Why have that much exposure on your price? I mean, Drew, last night I told Donnie this. I have a local in South Philadelphia here. His book, 565 on the Indians pregame. That's what he was laying. I mean, they just the numbers are unbelievable. Locals are just crushing this price. They don't want any parts of it. They don't want anyone betting it, and no one's betting it. I mean, who's laying 565 on a baseball game? Overall, yeah, I would lay the 1.5 runs in a lot of these games. You're kind of hurting yourself because Cleveland's just doing all things good right now. They're not just winning 1-0 every game.
Yeah, good. No, great point with laying the run line in this to definitely possibly look that way. But big man, I believe they're over 100 run differential positive in the
102. Yeah, 102 plus 102. Amazing.
Damn, that's got to be one of the best runs in baseball history. Yeah,
the record's 26. They're up now 3-1. You would think they'll beat Buck Farmer and the Tigers today. It's going to be interesting. It's something we haven't really seen. But how about the Dodgers last night? They get off the schneid, Donnie, and finally win a game.
Close one, too. The nail biter. Kenley Jansen came in. I believe bases were loaded or first and second with 1 out. So another nail biter for them. Boy, were they relieved when that game was over, because you lose that game with Kershaw on the mound. Now you're slipping in. Are we going to lose our next 5-6 games until he gets right back on the diamond again? So they needed that. And
Kershaw had some trouble. I mean, he had bases loaded in the 6th inning. Did get a big strikeout to get out of it, but yeah, I mean, they're really having to do a lot right now to win games, and it's. Again, what a difference a win will make for you. But tonight they come right back and face Matt Moore. I think you just got to keep trying to build on what you're doing, get to the playoffs, and see where it goes. But yeah, it got bad for the Dodgers for a minute. But I still think they're very good. I think the 4 best teams are clearly Cleveland, Houston, Dodgers, and National. I think everyone else is just second best overall. It's going to be a fun playoffs. I mean, you got 4 really good baseball teams, 4 teams that have bolstered themselves. You got a couple teams playing well. I mean, when's Cleveland going to lose, though? I mean, because you look at their schedule coming up here. Obviously they have a couple more here against the Tigers. I guess they have 1 more tomorrow, or do they change? I mean, yeah, they got 1 more today, and then they face the Royals for 3 over the weekend. Kansas City struggled, and it's at home for Cleveland. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Cleveland Indians probably need to pull a Kirk Cousins and say to Big Man, you like that? You like that? Because I remember earlier on in the season, Big Man's just ripping Cleveland, mediocrity and all this stuff. But, hey, they finally put it together. Yep.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. I mean, for all that, why I ripped them, Ian? Because I believed in this team so much that I put a pretty big future on them to win the World Series this year. And I was sick and tired of every game they were terrible at runs and scoring position. At one point, they were the worst in baseball by a wide margin. They couldn't score runs. They had a good lineup. They have a great – and every time I'd back Danny Salazar, I'd get crushed. And it was just – I just had a lot of bad luck with this team. But I've stayed away from them for the most part. I've stayed away from baseball, as I've said to you guys. But, yeah, they're on a historic run. They'd have to beat Kansas City and the Angels in this game against Detroit to get to the record. I see them doing it. Donnie, what do you think? You think they can do it?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same Final Four as you. I would lean on them. I think, I'm going to stick with my original analysis there with Houston early on. I just think once they get right. But again, I saw McCullers getting scratched from his start. So, I mean, everything gets thrown in topsy-turvy. If Houston comes in and just has, Dallas Keuchel and, a bunch of mix mash behind him, Verlander, I mean, albeit he's a veteran. But if you're looking at just pitching staff over pitching staff, you would have to give the edge to Cleveland.
All three are pretty good except Houston. I mean, Houston's okay, but it's not Washington. It's not Cleveland. It's not LA. I agree with you on that. I think Houston's got the best lineup, but they don't have a great bullpen. They don't have a great rotation either. Cleveland and those other two are definitely way better. And that's a good point. Jimmy the Bag, welcome in. All without Andrew Miller. Great point. And that's what's so great about this run. Their bullpen is just shut down. Their starters are like 17-0 during this streak. That's amazing. They're just doing everything right. Shout out to Cleveland. Good for you.
Yeah, great breakdown, guys. Yeah, the starters, 17 or 18-0. So it's all getting out in front early. And Ian, real quick, man, anything on the CFL? I see Calgary is laying double digits. Are you involved in that game?
Yeah, very quickly on CFL so we can get to college. Calgary separated themselves as best team in the CFL once again in the regular season. What else is new there? Wash, rinse, repeat year after year. It seems like this team is just able to put the hammer down and be the superior, the class of the CFL in the regular season. They're doing that again. They're on a tremendous winning streak. Not sure if this is the spot I want to be laying double digits with Calgary, though. We'll see later in the week. But the hottest team, believe it or not, in the CFL with a huge 2-game winning streak after an 0-8 start, my Hamilton Ticats. That's right. I ripped this team a new asshole for the Art Briles stuff. I've just criticized them up and down all season long, and here they are finally. If they put 2 wins together since Jeremiah Masoli became the quarterback, and believe it or not, 2-8, and they're 4 points out of the playoffs and just 4 points out, or 6 points out rather, of first place in the East Division. The two teams tied for first in the East, guys. 4-7 is their record, and they're tied for first. That's a professional sports league, apparently, but here we are. Welcome to the CFL.
Hey, it's okay. It makes for interesting matchups in the playoffs.
It does, but the East every year in the CFL is pathetic compared to the West, and it is again this year. First place, and the two teams are tied at 4-7. How is that a reality situation that we're dealing with here? Unbelievable.
All right, guys, let's get into a little college football action. Also looking in the chat box. What's up, Joe Everett, Vitalis, Cynthia doing some work in the chat box. Bit Jimmy the Bag in here. What's up, everyone? Let us know, I guess, what you want to hear. And college football-wise, guys, let's just go around the horn. What caught your eye? What are you looking to, to bet on? What are you looking to fade? Anything in the betting markets that caught your eye this past week in college football that you can take going forward? BMOC, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think kind of right now is Georgia. I mean, I was really impressed with what they did over the weekend and going into South Bend and getting a big win against a football program that we know always gets calls at home. We know is always going to be well received at home, but the fans came in. Look, I thought the backup played well. They're doing all this without Eason, and that's only going to improve when he comes back. Again, I keep saying it. They have not one but 2 good running backs. They're a great defensive team. They're going to get only better over the season. And look, I think they're starting to kind of believe in what Kirby Smart's selling there. I mean, Kirby Smart, and that's what I like about right now in college football. These good coaches, him and Lincoln Riley and some of these guys. I think Tom Herman soon's going to feel it as well. You're starting to see these teams really kind of buy into what the coaches are selling. It takes a year or two, but that was a big win for the Bulldogs over the weekend. Now they look at Patsy this week, and then they open up SEC play. They don't play Alabama this year. I think you're going to have a pretty good year for the Georgia Bulldogs. I was happy to see them go on the road and get a big win in a tough atmosphere. But I will say this, Drew, coming into this weekend, there's some tough games, but I got a really interesting angle on one game that we're going to get to, I think, here in a little bit. But overall, It was a fun week in college football. I had a couple winners. And again, I was surprised with Baylor's outcome, but we'll get to them a little bit later, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, BMOC Kyle Hamburg chiming in saying you're talking UGA on the roundtable.
I like this team. I like it.
Absolutely. And I'm actually here in Atlanta right now. Was watching the game out late at some restaurant bars near SunTrust Park, which is a really cool atmosphere. And it seems like everybody's really high on UGA, and they look good against Notre Dame. So I think the Bulldogs are bet on for sure. But Donnie, any thoughts that you want to get out to the listeners?
Yeah, I want to keep it down in the ACC. You know, these Florida programs, after this hurricane came through, a lot of these teams look like they're not even going to play a football game in over 3 weeks. You got Miami, Florida State, which was supposed to be this weekend. That got postponed. You got Central Florida, Georgia Tech postponed. Indiana game actually got postponed with Florida International. I believe they picked up an FCS team. So it's kind of an interesting, dichotomy, what's going to take place, who's going to come back. I don't know who it actually benefits in this situation, because I think if you're Miami, you probably want to get back on the horse and play Florida State and say, you know what? They have a green quarterback over there, freshman. We'd like to get after him right away, not give him a couple games to get started. But I agree in the effort of fairness there. You're going to get a much better football game by postponing that down the line. So just these Florida teams and how they come back for playing, having 18, 19, maybe 20 or so odd days that they're going to have off. An interesting one that I'm looking at this weekend is who's going to get off the schneid here playing bad football? Is it going to be Florida or Tennessee in that SEC tilt that's going to take place here on Saturday? Now they haven't canceled that game. I'm looking forward to that one as well. So just that whole Florida situation, who's going to come back from it and who actually is going to benefit from this layoff.
Also, keep in mind, Donnie, I think it kind of built off what you said. Make sure you're aware of if your team is on a bye or they actually were canceled, okay? Make sure you know the difference, because there are early buys in the season. You look at this year, UConn had a week off, but Air Force actually had a bye. So make sure you know if they're actually working on football stuff or they actually were displaced because of a hurricane. Make sure you're aware of if it's a bye or it was just a cancellation or something.
Yeah, for preparation time, that absolutely matters. And also research. I think Donnie brings up a great point with this hurricane situation, how much it affects these Florida schools practice-wise, because they can get really far behind in that. But, yeah, Ian, anything else you want to chime in on there?
Yeah, early season college football, sometimes you have to go and reach into the depths of hell and the depths of the toilet bowl and find some teams that have been terrible for the last year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years, and try to make a case to make money with those teams. And I'm going to talk about not one, not two, but 3 teams in this situation that worth keeping an eye on moving forward, and I'm going to certainly do that. These 3 teams are a combined 6-0 against the spread through their first 2 games each. The Buffalo Bulls, the Tulane Green Wave, and the Purdue Boilermakers. And I'm bringing up these 3 teams because, let's be honest, these have been dormant, bottom feeder programs for the last few years. There's some upside now, I think, starting to show with all 3 of them. Starting with Buffalo, this was the one that surprised me the most, that I'm starting to turn my opinion a little bit on the Buffalo Bulls. But I like what I'm seeing in terms of their defense. They played very, very stingy, solid defense through 2 games against Minnesota and Army, 38 points allowed in those 2 games combined, 2-0 against the spread. Tyree Jackson, the quarterback, he's still not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he has improved. I just like what I've seen from them, the effort on the defensive side of the ball. They forced turnovers. Very impressive that they took Army down to the wire last week, losing 21-17. Keep an eye on Buffalo. The one that I really like is this Tulane Green Wave team. The Curtis Johnson era at Tulane was a disaster. It was an absolute pathetic display by him with that program. Willie Fritz has come in here now in 2 years, and you are seeing this Tulane Green Wave team really start to be more competitive, really start to improve. I like this triple option attack. Fritz has got it installed now, year 2. They're more comfortable with it, and I like that this team in the AAC, in a conference where defense sometimes can be a little bit suspect across the board, this team is playing some pretty good defense, and they might have finally found a decent quarterback. The quarterback, of course, in a triple option, isn't asked to do too much through football, but they at least have a guy in Jonathan Banks that I think has that potential to be at least a solid enough passer in this triple option offense for Tulane. I like what I've seen. I mean, they gave Navy all kinds of fits last weekend, 23-21 loss down to the wire. Tulane, I think a moneymaker still. And how about the Purdue Boilermakers, guys? Jeff Brom, is it too soon to get excited about the fact that Purdue maybe finally hired a decent head coach? Daryl Hazel and that group was just a complete inept shit show from the beginning, had no clue, none, zero what they were doing. And watch Jeff Brom now here at Purdue make something out of David Blau. David Blau, is still trying to cut down the interceptions. It was a big issue for him last year. It's still been a problem a little bit this year, but he got better at the interceptions. He negated it a little bit last week against Ohio. You watch now Jeff Brom work with these Purdue quarterbacks. He is very good at developing them. Look what he did with Brandon Doughty at Western Kentucky. Look what he did with Mike White at Western Kentucky. He's going to make David Blau and the Sindelar, I think is his name behind him at Purdue, going to make them better quarterbacks in time. And I already like the scene. He's a Nick Holtz psycho. When you look at him on the sideline, the Purdue defensive coordinator, he's absolutely insane. But this defense is playing like with that insane, intense mindset of their defensive coordinator. They're playing hard. They're playing fast. They're not a great defense still by any stretch, but they dug in, forced turnovers against Louisville. They've shut down Ohio pretty well last week. I'm liking already what I'm seeing out of Purdue, and they're going to still be devalued because they've been a horrendous program for years. So Purdue, Buffalo, and Tulane. Keep an eye on those three teams, maybe some money-making opportunities in their future.
Yeah, Buffalo, sleeper, and also Tulane with Willie Fritz. I think it has a lot to do with coaching. Those guys, great coaches, and Willie Fritz and Lance Leopold. What he did at Division III Wisconsin Whitewater was pretty impressive. But guys, let's get into Baylor. Are they that bad? BMOC, you mentioned them. What do you think? You looking to? Is this a buy low opportunity or just fade City?
I love them this week against Duke. All over them. Grabbing a 14. Again, they were poor in week 1 and 2. I said it was one of the worst losses they've ever had or teams ever had in week 1. I mean, it was bad. I mean, you can't lose to Liberty. And then you can't follow it up and lose to UTSA. But here's what I like about this matchup. They're going on the road. They're getting the hell out of Waco. They've been there 2 weeks in a row. It's been a cesspool. Get out of there. Leave. Go to Duke. Duke's off a huge win against Northwestern, a very big win, and I won't discount it. It was a nice win. Daniel Jones, a good quarterback. But Matt Rule laid down the law. I mean, he's been really under the microscope, and I don't think it's Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a good coach. It's just a bad couple weeks. I really believe that. I think there's plenty of talent in this football team. A new Solomon seems like wherever he goes, he ruins something, and he's out this week. Zach Smith can take his team back. 9 new starters for Baylor this week. I don't think it's going to be pretty early on, but I think as this football game goes on, they're out of Waco, they're on the road. I think Matt Rule, could they really lose 3 in a row? I don't think they're going to win. They could very well lose 3 in a row, but I think you're going to see a heralded performance from this team. I think there's plenty of options on this team. They have good receivers, Denzel Mims, Pooh Strickland, Zach Smith's back at quarterback. It's kind of his team. They're in a panic state right now if you read the program. But overall, I think going on the road is going to be good for them here. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. Duke's off a huge win. I think I'm going to look to grab the points here. I think this is a pretty similar situation to in week 1, going into week 2 with Middle Tennessee. They were really undervalued. They went into Syracuse and got the outright win. I wouldn't be surprised here to see Baylor win this game. I think the athletes that they get are very good. I don't think they're as terrible, maybe on paper. And as this week's went on, I just think it's a really good spot for Baylor, personally. I think coming off the worst 2 games in their football's history, I think they're going to come out and play hard here.
You agree?
Yeah, it's very important to understand what the books have done here with the Baylor Bears. They lost outright, of course, as that massive 30-plus point favorite against Liberty in week 1. And the books didn't just get beaten with UTSA money last weekend. They got their shit kicked out of them with UTSA money. That line just crashed on UTSA. It was 17, and it closed near 14. I even saw 13.5 close to before kickoff. It was unbelievable, the movement and the money that UTSA took. And of course, all of that money cashed in. Didn't matter what number you got on the Roadrunners. Meep. They were able to win outright last week against Baylor on the road. So now the odds makers have made that adjustment. Power ratings across the board on Baylor have absolutely crashed following that second loss to UTSA last week. The books aren't going to want to get absolutely annihilated for a 3rd straight week with anti-Baylor sentiment. And that is why you see the price we're seeing right now. Baylor, it's been adjusted. Now Baylor's a 2-touchdown underdog here on the road against Duke when they were favored by massive points, double digits in each of their first 2 games. So the adjustment has been sharp. It's been steep. and it's been made. I wish Big Man the best with Baylor this week. I'm not going to get involved. I still don't like that. I don't trust them yet. But Zach Smith, the change can't hurt. It absolutely can't hurt. Anu Solomon was inept last week against UTSA. Couldn't do anything against that Roadrunner defense. Zach Smith played games under Jim Grobe at Baylor last year, at least has several starts under his belt, was solid. Again, the defense let Baylor down last year more than anything Zach Smith did at the quarterback spot. Was he erratic? Sure he was, but it wasn't all on him. Last year, what happened to Baylor, it can't hurt changing the quarterback. And even the 9 starters, as Jeff mentioned, can't hurt. It's going to be a game I don't get involved with this week, Drew. I got my money with UTSA last week with a much better number. I get to bet against Baylor as a 17-point favorite. I'm not as keen to bet against the Mirror as a 2-touchdown underdog here, getting away from home. So we'll see what happens, but fascinating game to watch this weekend.
There's still a talent discrepancy. I mean, they're getting way better athletes. I'm really looking at it from game, kind of looking at the game. I think you got a team off of a big win versus a team off 2 of the worst games, like I've said, in their program's history. They get out of their home stadium. I think it's just too many points at this point.
Yeah, and Ian, you brought up a good point with the new Solomon. I mean, I haven't been a fan of him. I know we have a lot of Vegas listeners, and he's from that area, but I thought he was overrated at Arizona as well. So good breakdown on him. But
just because you're from Vegas doesn't mean you can play.
Yeah, but a lot of the media we listen to will hype those kind of guys up. I don't know. I've noticed it, but
Bryce Harper, only good thing to come out of there.
Hey, Donnie.
Chris Bryant too, right? Chris Bryant from Vegas.
There you go.
I'm sure there's some others.
What's up, Drew?
No. Any thoughts on the Baylor situation? Or you want to?
No, I don't have much thoughts on Baylor. The one thing just perusing there, because I don't really get started in college football for at least another week, maybe 2 weeks there. But the one thing looking down at the line here, Oregon versus Nebraska, high shootout over the weekend. Taking a look. Any ideas there? Because, again, I haven't capped this game. I haven't really looked at the college football card that much overall. Oregon and Wyoming dropped 10 points from the opening line from 69 down to 59. Did I miss something there? I mean, what's up with that game?
This is a weird total. And Drew, I actually want to talk to you for a second. I know you mentioned last week with the Tulsa Lafayette game, that number plummeted. I don't understand this move in this Wyoming game. I think this is just a massive overreaction to maybe people think Oregon's defense is better, but I mean, Oregon's offense could put up this number themselves. They're absolutely cruising right now. I know they didn't play well in the second half against Nebraska, but I think that was just Bob Diaca really lighting a fire under his team's ass to come out and play better in the second half. I don't get this move down. I also don't understand how you could put out a total of 78 with Purdue. Okay, I get they're better, but let's be real. They don't even know who their quarterback is. Jeff Brom, while I agree, is a great coach. You see what's happening in West Kentucky now. He's going to have this team prepared. But that's a lot of points. 41-35, you lose. Okay? All you need, and look at last week. Missouri was highly priced in a total last week. That game didn't come close. That's way too high for Purdue and Missouri. I'm sorry. It could be 48, 45, and I look real stupid here. But from a standpoint of betting on things, and that's what we're in the business to do, find value. It's a similar way for me, and I get shit from people because I gave a future out on Stanford at 110-1. Do you really think that I think they're going to win? It's value. It creates opportunities for me to hedge with one of the best coaches in college football. Sometimes you have to look at things and say to yourself, that just doesn't make any sense. And Drew, I know you pointed it out. Some of these totals, you have massive moves, and there's no sense in them. There's none. I don't get why Oregon's total has dropped like this. I don't understand.
Well, it's been a complete makeout session for bettors with this Missouri over on a week in and week out basis. It's really been, they just can't get it up.
Because they put 72 points up against the Southeast Missouri State Redhawks. Who cares? You, me, and 9 listeners can go and do that. Who gives a shit? Honestly, it's ridiculous.
Big man, I mean, you bring up a great question. I don't think anybody knows for sure, but what I've learned in this business is, especially this time of year with these smaller schools, the market, the best way I put it is it's like investing in the stock market in the non-liquid assets where there's not a lot of people buying and selling and having opinions on these games. So when these services like Raz, like Right Angle Sports, or even Aaron Renning, who I'm involved with, you'll watch him release this game like CMU, and let's just say he says the over. He has so many clients and so much money backing this that it's one man's opinion, and it goes from 63.5 to 68.5 in literally 3 minutes. I watch it all the time.
But again, I don't know that it makes sense. Like I look at another game here, Drew, with Tulsa. Okay, at 2 o'clock Eastern yesterday, that total was 74. By 8:32, it was 68.5. I mean, who's betting these unders? Because they're getting their fucking clock clean if they're doing it.
It's that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You also have to know who is betting, and very rarely do you know that. See, Drew and we know Aaron Renning well, and usually when his release or his play is moving a line, I have some respect for that. I do because he's got that track record. The people that are moving some of these games, I have no clue who's moving these lines. I don't know if they've got a brain in their head or whatever. So you got to be very, very careful with which games are moving and where these line moves are coming from, unless you know specifically. And in the Aaron Renning case, as Drew mentioned, I do. But in this situation, you got to be careful because a lot of these sharp line moves, when you see the final score at the end of the weekend, they don't suddenly look so sharp.
When the over-unders move like this, I'm fading it every single time. Every time.
I respect that opinion, BMOC, and especially like if you have a strong opinion one way, at this time of year in college football, if you have a reason to think that, yeah, who gives a fuck what other people are betting? I've lost money keeping off of bets that I thought because the opinion in the market went the other way, and I kicked myself. So I agree with you. If you like it one way, fuck it, just bet it.
Yeah. No.
Although when a CFL line moves like that, you can respect it because that's me doing that. So, but I just wanted to throw that one out there.
Yeah, but this time of year, Ian, it doesn't move as much. It's more in like the first 7-8 weeks.
I know. I released CFL plays last couple of weeks. It moves a half a point at the most. That's about it. That's all you get.
Yeah. But guys, let's get into a couple breakdowns here. We got some big games. One game, I guess let's just start off with the mainstream big game in the AAC, Louisville, Clemson. Donnie or Ian, why don't you start us off with this big one here?
Yeah, it's a great game to watch. I'm not sure I want to bet against Clemson though. I think they're the superior defense as far as I'm concerned. That always matters in a matchup like this. They made key plays at key times last year when they played Lamar Jackson and this Louisville team. They're certainly not going to be surprised at what's going to be coming their way. I just question whether Louisville is ready to beat this caliber of foe on the defensive side of the football, because Louisville's defense, I think, does have some holes in it. I mean, we saw Purdue being able to move the ball at times against them. We saw North Kakalaki last week. It was Surratt come in at quarterback. Even Harris, when Surratt got injured, came in, moved the ball against Louisville. So I still got some question marks about Louisville's defense, and in a spread range like this, near a field goal, going to have to make some stops at key moments of the football game in order to win the game and cover the number. So I don't know if the value is there for me to back Clemson, but I do think they win the game. It's just a question of value and whether you want to lay the number. But it's a game I'll be watching. Fascinating game. Can't wait.
Anything BMOC in differing opinion from Ian?
Yeah, I don't have much in this game. Not a game I'm really interested in betting on. When you get these 8 o'clock marquee games, it's tough to find value. I think last week we had it in Oklahoma, but you got Louisville in revenge here. Obviously, after last year, they were right in that football game last year against a better Clemson team. I think Clemson's good, but are they better as last? No, they're not as good as they were last year. I don't know. Lamar Jackson, Donnie will mention it, is a tremendous talent. I think he could put a team on his back and really kind of will them to a victory like Deshaun Watson did last year. If I can get 3 and a hook, I kind of want to take Louisville for some reason, but they do have some holes defensively. This just isn't a game that I'm going to be betting on. So
and it is Bryant's first road start too.
Right.
Worth keeping that in
This
mind
isn't
as well.
in Death Valley, 8 o'clock, on a Saturday evening when you got, a great home field advantage. You got to go on the road against a team you beat last year with a quarterback in Lamar Jackson who's just better than everyone else. I have a feeling this game's close. It's going to come down to the final possession. We have to remember Clemson beat Kent State, who had 1 passing yard. And, Drew, I hate to say it, but Auburn was pathetic last week. 117 yards. It just isn't going to get the job done. It's not good enough, and they really crashed and burned. So, for me, I kind of want to lean Louisville, to be brutally honest with you.
Yeah, no offense taken. I think Jared Stidham is a little bit – I don't think he's overrated, but, I mean, I don't think he has the mobility to really make Gus Malzahn's offense really go. But, Donnie, you got – No, go ahead, BMOC.
No, it's a good read by you. You've kind of pointed it out that you didn't really like Stidham. And look, Stidham could still be very good, but again, he's a Baylor reject. Let's be honest. I mean, I don't know. You were right though. You've kind of rooted this team, and I know you're a fan of them. But sometimes you gotta go with your mind and say, I just don't think this team's very good. You were poignant in saying that. So
yeah, and it's not the talent. I mean, he could play at the next level for all I know. But the fit in this offense that I've seen in the past, I didn't think it was a perfect fit. But Donnie, any opinion on this game?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's already Wednesday, and most of these games, just to be comparison, have a couple hundred tickets, and there's already 5,500 tickets tracked this one, and everybody, public side angle, 71% are banging down the doors to grab Clemson here. Line opened up at 3, Pinnacle sitting at 3. Chris actually opened at a low number at 2.5. Actually has half juice at 3.5. This is going to be an interesting game for Clemson itself because you're right, young quarterback at home. He didn't have to do anything, wasn't under any pressure versus Kent State. He was never, saying, we have to have points here against Auburn. The defense sort of took control, but now you're going to go on a fast track on turf away, and Louisville's going to be excited for this football game. How much does Clemson say, all right, woo, man, we really circled the wagons. We wanted Auburn, the SEC team. We wanted to show how good we were. Now you go on the road. You're actually going to face a little bit of a test here because Lamar Jackson back there, hey, you can have the best pass rushers all day you want. He's going to get out of a couple of those. He's going to run for 30 and 40 yards at a clip on some of these outside designed runs if you're bringing House and you're not worrying about him there. I don't know how much Louisville has on defense that can combat Clemson. But again, from Clemson's offense, I don't take anything away from the Kent State game. Auburn's an SEC defense, yes, but they didn't do much there. I mean, Clemson's going to have to put up, 28, 31 points to win this football game because Louisville's going to put pressure and move the football, which, again, nobody's been able to do against Clemson, but I think Louisville does here. Just looking from a betting angle on perspective, stone cold line towards Louisville there. If I had to bet it today, I would take Louisville.
And this is the importance of having multiple books, guys. I mean, you look at Bookmaker, they're at 3.5. 5 times is at 3. This half point is going to mean a lot in this game, I have a feeling. Get the best of it. Make sure you're getting the best of it. We've preached that time and time again. Half points mean a ton in certain instances. Make sure you're getting the best of it.
All right, guys, good breakdown on that big matchup. And, we'll just finish it out here with a little bit more college football and best bets. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up. It helps us out a lot. My favorite matchup this weekend, 137, 138 on the SBR odds screen, a noon kick Eastern time. We got UCLA traveling to Memphis. UCLA laying 3, 2.5 at some shops. Looks like 5 dimes is showing at 2.5, so a good one to shop around. Total open 68.5. Up to as high as 71.5 right now at BetDSI. BMOC, let's come right back at you. What are you thinking? Are you looking to bet this game?
I'm looking at over here. Look, I know it seems very square and everything, but sometimes you have to look square on totals in college football. I just will be honest, Drew, I don't think we see a ton of defense played in this football game. UCLA's really struggled. I used them last week as my best bet here in the over. They struggle to stop people. I mean, they're giving up 34 points a game. You also look at their offense. They don't run the football really at all. 5th in the country in passing offense. Josh Rosen loves to sling it around. And against a team at Memphis who has almost come out and said it over the years that they're just looking to outscore people. They've won 18 games in the last 2 years with one of the worst defenses in this conference. They're just not very good at stopping anyone. They're a big-time run offense. I think they're going to have some big plays here, kind of like what Texas A&M did to them in week 1 against UCLA. It's been a weird season for Memphis. They've had that rainy game against UL Monroe in week 1, and then they had a cancellation in week 2. So I think they're going to be raring and ready to go in this football game, come out and play finally. And then you have UCLA and their body clock, at 9 o'clock a.m. But I think the big thing for me, Drew, sidewise, you have much better talent at UCLA, and B, I don't think Memphis is sneaking up on anyone. We saw what they've done over the years against Ole Miss and other teams. I don't think they're going to really sneak up on anyone. But for me, I just don't think there's a lot of defense played in this football game. I think it's like a 41-38 type of game. I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. I mean, as the day goes on, I think we see more and more points. This one looks like a good over to me, honestly.
Yeah, good point, BMOC, on the body clock, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Also, it's a tricky handicap because of that, and also a tricky handicap because Memphis, this is only going to be their second game, and their first game against ULM. Keep in mind, it was a pretty close-fought game, but I believe there was 20-mile-an-hour winds plus rain. So
yeah, it was such a tough atmosphere for Ferguson. And I think that's an overreaction where you have to look at the actual conditions. It's tough to throw the football with heavy wind. I mean, be real. It's just, this is finally a nice, sunny, 88-degree day down in Memphis. I think the ball is going to be flying around. I think you're going to see plenty of points here. That's a good point by you, Drew. Sometimes you got to peel back and say, what were the conditions? Were they optimal? Not at all in week one. It was really a raw, rainy kind of night.
And that total still got right around where it was marked at. It depends when you got in on it on that week. But, yeah, with 20-mile-an-hour winds plus rain and the total still is in the ballpark, that's an interesting thing there. I like the over as well. Ian, do you have any follow-up on what BMOC said?
No, total agreement. I mean, over the totals, the way I'm looking in this game. Let's not forget, Monroe moved the ball against Memphis in that first game. I mean, that was not a complete shutdown effort by Memphis, and their defense was a problem last year. Riley Ferguson and that offense was not a problem last year. Their defense was, and their defense should be better this year, but it's clear based on what I saw Monroe do against them in bad weather, time to improve on that side of the ball. And you look at Josh Rosen and this UCLA Bruins offense, guys, since the second half of the A&M game, if you put the second half of the A&M game, combine it with what UCLA did against Hawaii last week, flawless offensive execution. Rosen, pinpoint passing, bang on accurate with the football, and every pass he made, just crispness, sharpness, running the ball well, throwing the ball well, all over the place. This is a tough defensive matchup here for Memphis. But on the flip side, Riley Ferguson and that Tigers offense has a ton of weapons at running back, at wide receiver, a good quarterback. I think that UCLA defense is still a little spotty. Hawaii made some plays. Drew Brown made some plays against them last week on the road. Not going to be as easy for that defense now going on the road for this early start. So I'm staying away from the side because, again, UCLA's just been so good offensively the second half of the A&M game and last week that don't really want to step in front of them off in terms of a side. But totals-wise, yeah, even in the low 70s, I think there's still value over the total. This screams, 42-35 kind of game all over it.
All right, good breakdown, guys. Anything else CFB before we get into best bets and close this out?
I think we're good. I'm sure we'll break it down all week on SBR. A ton of football previews as well.
Yeah, bunch of college football, a bunch of NFL as well. We got Donnie with the closing line, Ian starting up some videos. Also, BMOC's bet buffet. We're filming that on Thursday, right? BMOC. We're gonna film it on Thursday. We got the bet buffet. It's an ode to. I don't go to buffets, but try to come up with.
Are you really? Yeah. Why aren't you filming this at a buffet? By the way, I mean that would be sensational.
I've never been a buffet kind of guy, but yeah.
Imagine sitting in your own booth at a buffet, like live, just like having some food and talking about games. That'd be fantastic, man. I love it.
Hey, if Drew lived close to me, I would definitely do that. Do they have any buffets down in Costa Rica? I don't even know if they do.
I really don't know. I haven't seen one if they do. But, yeah, no, we'll have to meet up and do that. But, guys, hey, best bets last week. BMOC, you called it. Hawaii, UCLA, perfect over. Also, Ian, hats off to you with Wake. You guys pretty much had perfect breakdowns. Donnie almost with the Titans with the L.
Yeah, I also had one there. I had 3 NFL games that I gave out with Gabe, and that was the loser I had, which I gave out on the Roundtable. So, yeah, we got to bounce back at that one.
Yeah, well, we're in bounce back mode. I also lost on Texas, San Jose State, not going over the total. Texas almost got there by themselves, but San Jose State put up the big goose egg, so didn't get there. But, guys, let's go right around the horn. Best bets this week, I guess MLB, CFL, CFB, NFL, hell, soccer's fine. BMOC, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm actually going to pick one today. I'm going to go to the Champions League here. I had a good day yesterday. If you've looked at Champions League, which I don't know how many people did, if you saw kind of scrolling across your TV last night, there were a ton of blowouts yesterday, 5-0, 6-0. This is where the big teams come in and face some minnows that really have had great seasons, but it's almost like the 16-1 matchup in college basketball. They're all excited. They get to this point, and then it's, well, let's smack you into oblivion. I'm going to go with the best team in the world, 301, 302, Real Madrid. I'm going to lay the 3.5 goals here at minus 132. Real Madrid gets Ronaldo back after suspension. And if you know anything about Cristiano Ronaldo, he thrives on the big stage of the Champions League. This is at home. Real Madrid's just sick. I'm not going to list all their players. We all know how good they are. They're playing a team in Apwell, Nicosia out of Cyprus. Yes, Cyprus. They're a team that I just don't think is going to have much success here. I look at a lot like Chelsea yesterday against Qarabag. Qarabag's out of Azerbaijan. Just kind of a team that really kind of went on some good momentum and made it to this point. This Cyprus team, I don't think has much in the way of a chance today. I think Real Madrid hammers them back to Cyprus. I think this is a 5-0, 6-0 type of game. Ronaldo should score 2 or more goals. I think Real Madrid pounds Apoel today. 4, 5, 6-0.
So just for the guys that aren't as familiar with soccer betting, it's Real Madrid. Is there any slogan?
You can find them on most books, the Champions League or in European Cup. It's the Champions League. Real Madrid minus 3.5 goals. It's similar to a spread in football or basketball. They got to win 4-0 or higher. 301, 302, Champions League, Real Madrid.
Damn, from a guy that doesn't know much about soccer betting, like that just seems wild, like minus 3.5.
Drew, take a look yesterday quickly at the score lines. I mean, you had 6-0, 5-0. I'm okay with laying goals. I mean, I laid 6 last week in a game, and it was 9-0. So the class difference here is it's similar to a really good football team against Alabama A&M or something like that. The talent difference is just so high.
Okay. No, it makes sense. I take your word for it. So at Babano, Ian Cameron, what do you got for best bets, buddy?
Not easy to come up with one because I had 6 or 7 in mind for best bets, NFL, college football combined. But we're going to go with this one. And I understand that everybody's high on this team. Everybody loved seeing Baker Mayfield plant the flag at midfield for the Oklahoma Sooners last week. But I do not like this spot for Oklahoma. I hate this spot for Oklahoma. You're coming off that huge win against Ohio State. Huge win, a tremendous second half. Baker Mayfield plants the flag. Team going nuts with celebration after the game. Now you've got Tulane, as I mentioned earlier in the show, a plucky, feisty, hard-nosed, tough, somewhat solid defensive team. Tulane Green Wave coming in, and you've got your Big 12 opener next week, albeit against Baylor. Baylor's not what they used to be right now, but it's still your Big 12 opener. It's a tough sandwich situation for Baker Mayfield and this Oklahoma Sooners team. I'm going to take a shot with the big dog because they're feisty. They've been very, very good under Willie Fritz in this double-digit underdog range. Let's not forget it. Double-digit dog against Houston last year. They covered that game wire to wire. It's a good role for Tulane. Jonathan Banks is a better option at quarterback than they've had. That triple option. Again, Oklahoma coming off that Ohio State game. Now you got to have the discipline to face a triple option attack. This is not the spot. I'm looking to lay nearly 5 touchdowns with Oklahoma. I'm going to take a shot with the big dog, see if they can go 3-0 ATS to start the season. We'll take Tulane plus 34 is what we're going to use with this one. Tulane plus 34, rotation 163. Best bet for the round table.
Good bet.
Donnie, right side. What you got, buddy?
Yeah, we'll keep it simple on Sunday without putting too much capping into this. We'll go with one of those games where just a good situation from week 1 to week 2. You're never as bad as you look on week 1. You're never as good as you look on week 1. We'll fold it over. I don't have any, problem with betting this football team. We're going to take it to rotation 269, 270. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts in this game. Sportsbook.com showing 7.5 right now. I'll take the 7.5. It's not so much that Indianapolis sucks. We saw what they did opening day. The public saw what they did. It's embarrassing. But not very many people, I don't think, paid attention to that Arizona team. Losing their best player. Do they have a good defense? Yes, they do. But you're not asking Indianapolis to win this game at home. You're not asking to lose by a field goal. You're asking them to lose by basically double digits at home. Can they lose by that? Yes. But I'm going to go against right now and fade the public. 79% of the tickets lining up early on the Arizona team in this situation with the Cardinals. I'm going to go against it. I know they're a bad team. Hold your nose in this one. Indianapolis gets the cover here. So we'll go with the Colts plus 7.5 for Sunday here as my best bet on the round table.
Okay, and we're right around the 7 number, Donnie. So what sports book should we look at?
Oh, Sportsbook.com had minus 7.5. It's the only reason why I picked that one out there.
Okay, so Colts.
So I'm going to take the plus 7.5.
My best bet, I'm having to change on the fly to give a little tip of the cap towards Ian. We have a little chat going on as well. BMOC said, great bet, Ian. That was going to be my best bet as well, so I'll change on the fly with I loved your breakdown too, Ian. The spot is awful for the Sooners, but I will go with 185 Oregon minus 13.5, minus 111 at Matchbook. Penny also has them at minus 13.5. It's minus 14 everywhere else. But since it's free bet, best bets, I can take the 13.5, right, guys? So
little duck action there, huh?
What's that?
Little duck action.
Yeah. I like what I've read. I mean, Willie Taggart has the guys in a higher location, I believe in Northern California, to get ready for Laramie, Wyoming's elevation. I think that that will help with motivation as well.
How about Taggart? I mean, would Mark Helfrich ever do that? I mean, what a great coach and Taggart. I mean, just
big upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, it's great move. Great stuff.
And you wait and see. I know, Nebraska game last week was a little helter-skelter for that defense, but you look at that Oregon defense, come back and ask me in October and November specifically what that Oregon defense looks like. They're going to be better in November. I guarantee Jim Leavitt is going to make that a better defense. By November, this is going to be maybe not a great defensive team yet, but they're going to be decent. They're going to be a lot better.
Great point, Ian. And also I will add to that with great defensive coordinator going after the quarterback for Wyoming, who is good. Although keep in mind, he lost a lot around him. This is not the same Wyoming potential on offense that they were last year. I think you're a year late if you're betting on the Cowboys of Wyoming. I think they're still overvalued. So I think that Oregon, obviously is the side I bet it personally. But guys, anything else as far as college football landscape goes?
I think we could talk about this all day, Drew. It might be a good time to wrap it up.
It's been a great show. It's been a monster.
Yeah, no, good stuff though. And thanks for the thumbs up, guys. And we'll close it out. We'll be back next Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific here on the Sports Betting Roundtable. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys.